Alright, so today's Skywatch is all about creatures, monsters, and what I can only describe as the space cows from Apex Legends. So I'd like to start off by showing off the different sketches that the devs provided and then move slowly into what seems to be more likely to be added into the game. As the devs do state in the beginning that none of these updates for animals/creatures are set in stone, so do keep that in mind. Now they start off by showing quite a variety in terms of types of creatures, some of which include flying fish, floating jellyfish, rocks, almost bird/manta ray/piranha type looking creatures, all of which would look very strange and intricate, even a variety of insectoid type creatures as well. They then move on to some of the different colored and detailed plans for some of the possible creatures. For example, this jellyfish that inhabits floating rocks and collects sediments, and they also show some of the possible ways for the creature to become hostile, some of which are having very dangling tentacles being sticking to players and possibly having maybe electrical or poisonous effects, as well as having jellyfish tentacles throw rocks at nearby ships that get too close. The one in particular I like a lot is their drawing here of the flying turtle or tortoise, as well as this incorporation of like the flying rocks and the trees on top of it. Now, while there really isn't much for more visuals for the tortoise looking creature, I could really foresee this being a viable passive creature in Lost Skies, mostly in that it could be used as another means of travel for the player aside from ships. Say if there's a function where rocks or trees on this animal were damaged and the creature is somehow scared, maybe by noise or something, and then starts to move away, and then you could hypothetically jump on or grapple to the flying tortoise as a means of transport to another island. But regardless, moving on to the further designs that the team wanted to focus on most in terms of 3D models, we do see more developments toward rendering for birds, as well as developments for flying animations. Another design it seems the team really wants in the game is a creature called cave dwellers, and these insect-like creatures seem to have a varying set of colors and designs, likely for different and more difficult biomes in the game. And while they don't show the animations for these, they do show the 3D modeling for it, as well as an in-game character size comparison that helps give you a depiction of what to expect. Now, they do also explain that they are working on some different and small adjustments to the already worked deer, but that they have also designed an entirely new deer that will have different movement and animations than the OG one. But I'm not gonna lie, that looks pretty similar to the legendary from Pokemon X. I mean, you see the resemblance, right? I mean, like, I'm not crazy, but anyway, moving on to the manta, the devs explain that the new mantas, while they are heavily based off of Worlds Adrift mantas, will have some slight variations, as well as they plan to add a wide mix of different colored designs. I can only guess for either different biomes or at the very least for different progression stages of the game in order to help ensure that the scaling ability of the player and his ship is matched by the increase of damage by the newer and stronger mantas. Personally, I feel like having that function just makes sense for the game, and also that the designs do look very cool. I especially love the black, gold, red, and dark blue ones on the right. Those ones really give a cool endgame vibe to me. Lastly, I'll move on to what I think is the most interesting topic for the Skywatch, and we have a large push into what I would consider giganticism. Now, they give us two creatures in consideration for the development, one of which is the long leg or moose. Name is not final, but I will dub it the space cow from Apex, because when I first looked at the model for this, I was like, oh yeah, okay, it's a moose. It could be interesting. You know, moose are already big in size, but you know, that'd be pretty cool. And then I saw the image for the scale of the drawing. Yeah, you see that? That's a person. So this thing is nearly 8 times the size of a human. And while they don't have a finished design for the moose, I definitely think its design would be awesome to have. Like the idea of having it be so large that you just like see moss and plants growing on it on the back is awesome. Not only that, but like the idea of being able to swing and grapple onto this like large passive creature and like jump on its back and ride it, all of that would add to like the general movement of the character as well. But in knowing how freaking huge this thing is, it does open a can of worms, because while many have told me they hope that the islands in Lost Skies transfer over some of the ones from the Worlds Adrift island creator, it does call into question how feasible it is to have something of this size roaming on the Sky Islands. That of which often the islands can be very small, and even if they are large, many of which can be like large but not have large amounts of flat area. They can be very tall or have, you know, very extruding large structures that could, you know, adhere or block the possibility of having those types of biomes for those large creatures. Though it is also possible that the devs, because of this, move into more of a largely procedurally generated world of islands to account for a more land area for these types of creatures. This is just a concept nonetheless and isn't at all set in stone, but either way I do think it's really cool. So now the last thing they have here is another insect type creature called the Nautilus, otherwise called the land shrimp, or as the dev team called Naughty Boy. Anyway, they show off some of the comparisons of the possible smaller sizes for the creature, with the smaller ones being only about 2 to 3 times larger than the player and the other being about 7 times longer, which even still being huge is a little bit more feasible in my opinion than, you know, the giant moose. And while it seems like we can't be sure on the exact size for the 3D model that they provide for it, it is much more detailed when compared to the one they have for the space cow, which to me gives the impression that this is more likely to be put in the game. But I do think what really steals the deal here is this absolutely ensures that it'll be in the game. It's the last caption they have here on the bottom. Look at that naughty boy trying to take this sandwich. But you know, that, my friends, is all I have today, so I will see you in the next one. Peace.